This is Business Incorporated on Channels Television, and we're glad to have you. I am BC Adebayo. Coming up today, Trump administration to impose tariffs on $7.5 billion worth of European imports from October the 18th. And growth in the UAE's non-oil private sector slows to 9-year low in September. Plus, Zimbabwe to put first notes of its reintroduced currency into circulation in November. But let's get the show started with the markets right away. And the African markets appear to be sustaining the negative trend as stocks remain largely low at intraday. Here in Nigeria, the all-share index was 0.12% lower at intraday, while the South Africa GSE also fell 0.62%. In Egypt, the index was down 1.33%, also at intraday, but the Kenyan markets closed 0.25% positive on Wednesday. And in the Middle East, the Abu Dhabi index dropped 0.06%, but the Dubai indices were 0.61% higher. The Qatar exchange was down 0.47%, and the Saudi index also traded lower at 0.82% at intraday. Turn now to the UK, where the Purchasing Managers Index tumbled to a 6-month low of 49.5, and that's below the 50 level that divides growth from contraction. Combined with even weaker manufacturing and construction service earlier in the week, September's all-sector PMI sank to 48.8 from 49.7, and that is the lowest since the month after the referendum decision to leave the EU in June 2016, and before that, in 2009. Well, let's talk to Juliana Olayinka from our London studios for more. Hello, Juliana. How are you doing today?
Nice talking to you.
All right, Juliana. Now, so the UK is possibly heading towards a recession with the PMI numbers, right?
Well, I would say it's not too extreme to suggest that the recession warning light is flashing red. The entire city is panicking with anxiety. Of course, as you said, those services PMI figures, which were due out today, which really the service industry is the biggest part. It makes up the best part of Britain's GDP, and that fell below the 50 level. And of course, anything below 50 shows that it's declining. Now, the composite PMI, which takes into account services, manufacturing, and construction, came in at 49.7 in September. That's a fall from 48.8 in August. So economists are suggesting that we could be heading in Q3 to a decline by 0.1% in GDP. Of course, we know that Q2 there was a contraction of the British economy by 0.2%. So yes, we could indeed be heading into recession, which of course, considering we are on the countdown to Brexit, it's not good at all. Some analysts are also suggesting at the next Bank of England gathering that the governor may indeed cut interest rates. So not good figures from the UK at all today.
And still talking figures, another big story today is the fact that the US has been given the go-ahead to impose tariffs on £6.1 billion worth of goods imported from the EU. Give us an update on this story.
Well, this story, Bissy, is a 15-year-old battle between Airbus and Boeing, Airbus being the European owner of airlines and Boeing being the American. Now, the Americans complained in 2004 that the EU was subsidizing this airline, basically giving them loans that were unfairly taking out their competitor, Boeing. Now, the World Trade Organization did in 2004 rule that, yes, the EU were out of line, but the EU have never paid this money or complied with the ruling. So, of course, now Trump and his America First rhetoric has taken over this case. And yes, yesterday, that $7.5 billion worth of goods that will be imposed upon is actually the highest ever ruling that the World Trade Organization have given. Now, we did hear from the EU chief executive of Airbus, and they said, you know, that this is a completely catastrophic for the airline industry, that it won't just affect the EU, it will affect America. They have asked for a negotiation to try and come to terms with this. And America said that this is years too late. So it's really important to emphasize that this is pre-Trump, because, of course, this has been a 15-year-old battle. But the transatlantic relationship between the US and the EU, putting aside Britain, hasn't been very good at all. So even though this isn't Trump's decision, it doesn't look good for US and EU relations.
And how do all these stories impact on the equities and currency markets, Juliana, especially where Brexit is concerned?
Well, Brexit is the number one thing that everybody is watching at the moment. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, has been laying out some of those guidelines to MPs and lawmakers in the Commons. And of course, you know, the EU have to accept his withdrawal agreement, and MPs have to accept the withdrawal agreement. The opposition leader today, Jeremy Corbyn, was basically using his Commons speech to warn his MPs not to back Boris Johnson. We're hearing also as well from Brussels that many of those around Michel Barnier, the chief EU negotiator, are saying that Boris Johnson's deal is completely unworkable, and they're due to give a really damning report at the end of the day. But Boris Johnson has said he will be leaving October the 31st with or without a deal, even though it would be illegal to leave without a deal. So how has this affected the equities market? Let's take a look specifically at those numbers. The FTSE All-Share is down 0.52%. The FTSE 100 is down 0.54%. And the FTSE 250 is down 0.46%. Not a great day for sterling as well. The British pound is down on the US dollar by 0.10%, down on the euro by 0.10% also, and down on the Japanese yen by 0.18%, Bissy.
All right, Juliana, we have our eyes on all the developing stories coming from your end, and I'm sure you'll be back tomorrow to tell us more. See you again tomorrow.